In this video, I'm going to introduce you to some basic GDB commands that you can use for debugging your programs. So what we've seen is that we can use the visualizer to kind of step through code and execute it. What we're going to do in this video is use GDB to step through things. Specifically, what we're looking for in this program is which member functions from which class get executed when you have a base class and then a derived class. So this choice question class is derived from the question class. And you can see, for example, they both have member functions called display that have empty parameter lists. So that's something we're going to be looking for, is to see. And this derived class has this method add choice, which the base class does not have. So we're going to look and see, just kind of step through and see what gets called. You notice that the member functions themselves really don't do anything. They're completely empty. There are no statements in the braces. So what we're looking for is just making sure we're clear on what member functions get called, the member functions from the base class or from the derived class. So that's what we're looking at. So yeah, in the visualizer, we would do something like this, where we would step through and see where things are going. The online GDB environment gives us the option of running GDB. So let's see, what is GDB? So GDB is the GNU debugger. Okay, it's part of the GNU project. I'll put this link out so you can read more about it. But basically, it gives us a set of commands, and we'll use some of these basic commands to navigate through the code. And there's a sample one that works with a C program, but it gives you the idea. So our GDB Online actually does some of the steps here. It does the compiling and starting up GDB if we choose the debugger. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And then the first things you want to do once you get this GDB prompt is, what we're going to do is we're going to put a breakpoint at the main function. So you can say B and then the name of any function to stop the action at that function. And then we're going to run the program up till that point, and we're going to do some stepping through, and if we have any values, we can take a look at those values. We'll see how to do that too. All right, so to start up the debugger here from online GDB, excuse me, press the debug button here, and it'll compile, and then you get the little debug prompt. Now you notice there are also some handy buttons in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my breakpoint at main, and then I am going to type in run. So so you have a choice of using these buttons, which you can definitely play around with, or using the actual commands. It's a good idea to familiarize yourself with these commands. GDB is a nice thing to know. You can impress people if you can correctly use some of these GDB commands, and they're nice to. Well, you'll see what you can do with them. So right now, we broke. You can see where we're stopped here. At this point, there's a little red dot, and this line is highlighted, and it tells you right here we broke at line 33, and we're about to execute this one, set text. So let's look at these options again. If you look at the commands, S will run the next line of code. N is like S, but does not step into functions. So we're going to use S, and I'll show you what's meant by stepping into a function or stepping into a member function. In this case, we're going to step into the set text function. So I'm going to type S. Now, looking back at the code, we also want to try, as you're doing this, try to predict, is this going to call a function in the base class or in the derived class? So remember, the base class is question, and here are all the public methods for member functions for question, and these are the member functions for choice question. And you'll notice in this case there is no set text member function for choice question. So if we do S, I typed in an S, now I'm going to hit enter. What happens is we skip up to set text, and we're actually running this method. Now if there had been statements in here, we could also step through those statements inside. What I'm going to do, I want to see if the string value is recognized at this point. I'm not sure. I'm going to try P for print, so that's one of these commands here, P, and then you can name a variable after it just to see what the value of that variable is. So you can see this is something valuable for tracing through and debugging a program. So this one says, so the value of this variable, named value, or the string contained in this variable value is in which country was the inventor of C++ born. And that makes sense because that's when we called it with that, okay. And it's actually, as you can see, it doesn't do anything, but if it was doing something, like I said, we could step through and see exactly what it was doing. So let's now hit S again, see what happens. So now we finished with set text, and we're on the next line here. So we can do add choice. We can step into that one. Now add choice, there is a add choice member function in the derived class. There is no add choice method in the base class. So again, that one's pretty easy to see that we're going to use in this case, we're going up to the derived class and using add choice from there. Okay, so let's step forward some more. Now we're in display. Now display has a member function in the derived class and a member function in the base class called display. So here we want to see which one is this going to go to. See if you can predict. I'm going to say step, and it goes to the one in the derived class. Because remember, our CQ object is of type choice question. It's in this derived class. So that's why it knew how to do add choice. If CQ had been a simple question object, we wouldn't have been able to, this wouldn't have even compiled the add choice because it wouldn't know how to do that. Okay, so here we're calling display. We can go through it, say S. And again, like I said, there are other classes here. You can also press info break to see your breakpoints. We just had one that we already hit once. That was the breakpoint that we set for the main class. We could have set breakpoints actually for any of these member functions, even for line numbers if they're executable lines. Let's step through this next one where it says string equals response. That's the line that we're on now. You can see that it's highlighted with a light green rectangle. So now we've executed this. So let's see what response. We can print out response, and that's Denmark. And we can go into Boolean set result. We can step into check answer and see what that does. Okay, well this doesn't have anything in it, so I wonder, we'll just have to see what that is going to return. Let's see. Step. Oh, so check answer. Okay, so now we're here, and now we're at the end. Let's see if we can print out result. Okay, that's interesting. It's 206. So really, for result, we're going to get some wonky number because answer, because it could be because we're finished with main, but also we didn't set it to anything. Or we didn't return anything from check answer in here. You can always press the continue button or just press C to finish running. And so now we've completed, and it says we exited normally. So now we're done. So that gives you an idea of some of the commands that you can use to trace through these things. You can also click the try it button and go through and play around with it in the visualizer, or you can copy and paste it into GDB and play around with it in the debugger to try out some of these things.